The night it happened was wrapped in rain and silence, the kind that presses on the chest and makes old fears wake up. In a small rental house on the edge of Cedar Falls, Iowa, a single father named Michael Harper stood in the doorway of a dim bedroom, listening to a child's breathing change as thunder rolled across the sky. What came next was a question so small and fragile that it seemed to hang in the air, and the answer he gave would quietly change two lives in ways neither of them expected. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of simple human goodness, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Michael had not planned to be a single dad. Life had narrowed his world after loss, leaving him with a job at a local distribution center, a mortgage he barely managed, and a 6-year-old daughter named Grace whose eyes carried questions she didn't know how to ask yet. Grace had come to him through a kinship placement after a long year of chaos, and while the paperwork was done, the healing was not. Nights were the hardest. Storms reminded her of nights when adults argued, doors slammed, and no one came when she cried. Michael learned to read the signs, the stiff shoulders, the way her fingers twisted the edge of a blanket until it wrinkled. That evening the power flickered, and the house felt larger than it should have. Michael had made dinner simple, kept the lights low, and read a story longer than usual. He believed in routines because routines felt like promises. When he tucked Grace in, she watched him with eyes that were trying to be brave. He turned to leave, and that was when she asked quietly if there was space in his bed tonight. The words weren't dramatic, but they carried the weight of fear, of a child unsure whether the world would keep her safe while she slept. Michael didn't answer right away. He knew how delicate moments like this were. He had read enough to understand boundaries, to know that safety was as much about clarity as comfort. He knelt so he was at her level, steady and calm, and gave her one sentence that would become a cornerstone in her memory. He told her there was always space for her to feel safe, and that tonight the couch would become a fort where they could hear the rain together. It was simple, honest, and full of care, and it stunned her not because it denied her, but because it showed her something better than what she had asked for. They built that fort with cushions and blankets, turning the living room into a soft cave of shadows and warmth. Michael made cocoa and talked about ordinary things, the kind that remind a child the world is predictable. Grace listened to the rain and learned that safety could take many shapes. When sleep came, it was deep and quiet, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't wake up crying. Days passed, and the house began to breathe again. Michael kept showing up, not with grand gestures, but with steady presence. He attended school meetings, learned Grace's favorite cereal, and taped her drawings to the fridge like they were museum pieces. Grace, in turn, learned how to trust the rhythm of a good morning and a calm good night. She started to laugh more, her shoulders loosening as if she were finally setting down a heavy bag. Across town, another life intersected with theirs in an unexpected way. Rachel Thompson, a social worker new to the county, was assigned to check in on the placement. She carried her own quiet story of loss and rebuilding, and she recognized the signs of careful love when she saw them. Michael didn't try to impress her. He spoke plainly about what he was learning, what he didn't know yet, and how he was trying to do right by Grace. Rachel watched how Grace leaned toward him when he entered the room, how she watched his face before answering questions, and she felt a familiar swell of hope. Winter came early that year, and with it, small tests of patience. Grace had nightmares some nights, waking with tears that surprised her. Michael learned to sit beside her bed and breathe slowly until the storm inside her passed. He never rushed her, never minimized the fear. He named it gently and reminded her of the present. Each time she returned to sleep a little stronger, as if a thread were being stitched into place. The sentence he had spoken on that rainy night began to echo through their days. There was always space for safety. It meant space at the table for questions, space in the car for singing badly to the radio, space in the schedule for a school play even when work was exhausting. Grace started to test the promise in small ways, asking if there was space for her worries, her mistakes, her dreams. Michael kept answering with actions, and the answers held. Rachel's visits became less formal and more like check-ins with a family she believed in. She noticed the changes in Grace's drawings, the colors growing brighter, the figures standing closer together. She saw Michael's shoulders relax, the lines of worry softening as confidence took root. Healing, she knew, rarely arrived all at once. It came in increments, like light filling a room through a cracked door. One evening near spring, a storm returned, softer this time, and Grace paused in the hallway before bed. She didn't ask about the bed. Instead, she asked if the fort could come back. Michael smiled and pulled the cushions from the couch, and they listened to the rain together, safe in a ritual that belonged to them. Grace fell asleep with her head on a pillow she had chosen, and Michael sat nearby, grateful in a way that felt like prayer. As the months unfolded, Michael faced challenges that tested his resolve. Work hours were cut, a pipe burst in the kitchen, and there were days when fatigue threatened to fray his patience. But each time he remembered the promise embedded in that one sentence. He learned that being a father wasn't about perfection, it was about presence. Grace, sensing his steadiness, began to offer her own. She learned to help set the table, to apologize when she made a mess, to say thank you with sincerity. Near the end of the school year, Grace stood on a small stage in the gym and sang with her class. Michael watched from the bleachers, heart full and eyes wet. He thought of the night she had asked her question, and how far they had come from fear to confidence. Rachel stood nearby, smiling, and later told him that sometimes the right boundary, spoken with love, could be more comforting than any shortcut. If this story is touching your heart right now, please take a moment to like the video, share it, and leave a comment. Your engagement tells us that these stories matter and helps them reach more people who need encouragement. On the drive home, Grace talked about her favorite parts of the song, and Michael listened. When they arrived, she ran ahead to the door and turned back, waiting for him with a grin that held no shadows. The house felt like a home in a way it never had before. Just before the ending of this video, we have a special request for you. Please comment the word space if this story reminded you that there is always room for kindness and safety in the world. That night, as Michael tucked Grace in, the rain stayed away, and the house was quiet. Grace closed her eyes without hesitation. Michael turned off the light and paused in the doorway, knowing that the sentence he had offered months ago had grown into something larger than words. It had become a way of living, a promise kept day after day. And in that simple, steady faithfulness, two hearts found the space they needed to heal.